breaking news tonight. Iran has reportedly issued 3 major demands to the United States and Israel that it says must be accepted if the current conflict is to stop. At the same time, tensions around one of the world's most important energy routes, the Strait of Hormuz, are raising fears that the crisis could trigger a global oil shock. Energy experts warn that if the conflict escalates and shipping through the Strait of Hormuz is disrupted, oil prices could surge dramatically, affecting economies around the world. Tonight we explain what Iran's 3 demands are, why this narrow waterway matters so much to global energy markets, and what could happen next in this rapidly evolving crisis. Welcome to NovaSphere News. Over the past several weeks, tensions between Iran, Israel, and the United States have intensified dramatically. Military activity in the Persian Gulf region has increased, and governments across the world are closely monitoring developments. Iran's leadership has accused the United States and Israel of threatening its national security and economic interests. Meanwhile, Israeli leadership, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, has repeatedly stated that Israel will respond decisively to any threats coming from Iranian forces or their regional allies. The United States has also increased its military readiness in the region, with naval forces continuing to patrol key shipping lanes in the Persian Gulf. These tensions have raised concerns among analysts that a localized conflict could potentially grow into a much larger regional crisis. And that brings us to the latest development: Iran's reported conditions for ending the conflict. According to reports from regional officials and analysts, Iranian leadership has outlined 3 key conditions that it believes must be met in order to end the current confrontation. The first demand is recognition of Iran's strategic and political rights in the region. Iranian officials argue that their country must be treated as a major regional power and that international policies should acknowledge its security concerns and economic interests. The second demand is compensation for damage caused by military actions during the conflict. Iranian officials say that infrastructure, economic facilities, and civilian areas have suffered damage and that compensation would be necessary as part of any long-term settlement. The third demand is perhaps the most significant: security guarantees from the United States and Israel that Iran will not face future attacks. Iran's leadership says that without such guarantees, the country cannot trust that a ceasefire would hold. These demands have become part of the growing diplomatic discussions surrounding the conflict. However, it remains unclear whether the United States or Israel would accept such conditions. At the center of Iran's political system is the country's supreme leadership structure. Recent developments have drawn attention to Mojtaba Khamenei, who has emerged as a powerful figure within Iran's leadership. Statements attributed to Iranian leadership emphasize that the country will continue defending its interests and sovereignty if pressure from foreign powers continues. Iranian officials also warn that attempts to weaken the country economically or militarily could lead to broader regional consequences. These statements highlight the seriousness with which Iran views the current situation. And one of the biggest concerns relates to the strategic location known as the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz is one of the most critical shipping routes in the entire world. This narrow passage connects the oil-rich Persian Gulf to international waters. Every day, massive tankers carry oil from major energy-producing countries such as Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates through this route. Experts estimate that roughly 1/5 of the world's oil supply travels through the Strait of Hormuz. Because of this, any disruption in the region could have immediate global consequences. Even rumors of instability can cause oil prices to rise sharply. If the strait were ever closed or severely disrupted, global energy markets could experience one of the largest supply shocks in modern history. Energy analysts say the biggest economic risk from the current tensions is the potential disruption of oil shipments. If tankers cannot safely pass through the Strait of Hormuz, global oil supply could suddenly shrink. That would likely cause oil prices to rise quickly. Higher oil prices would affect transportation, electricity production, manufacturing, and even food supply chains around the world. In the past, smaller regional tensions have already caused temporary spikes in oil prices. A major disruption could push prices far higher and create economic pressure for many countries. That is why governments and international organizations are watching the situation very carefully. At this stage, several possible outcomes remain on the table. Diplomatic negotiations could reduce tensions and prevent further escalation. International mediators may attempt to bring both sides to the negotiating table. However, if tensions continue to rise, the region could face increased military activity and economic uncertainty. For now, the world is closely watching every development. The situation in the Middle East remains complex and rapidly evolving. Iran's demands, the ongoing military tensions, and the strategic importance of the Strait of Hormuz mean that any development could have global consequences. We will continue to monitor this story and bring you the latest updates. If you want clear and informative coverage of major global events, make sure to subscribe to NovaSphere News and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching.